right, it is time for, goals. Yes, goals. Film goals. These are not in the right order. Film goals check-in. We're gonna roll with it. Hey everyone, it is Shannon, and I'm super excited to be here today and to share with you this video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about 3 of the films that I have seen recently for one of my current challenges, which I'm calling Fight the FOMO. This is all about watching movies that, as they become available, or new releases, or as they catch your eye, to not have some films that you really want to watch left lingering so long that they become something you don't want to watch because you left it so long. So this is sort of just like embrace like the moment and just watch something that you want to watch now, which feels like it shouldn't be that hard, but I do find that I leave things for some other time, or when I'm feeling like watching this, or maybe on a different day, or I don't know, sometimes I just leave it too long. So this challenge is just one of the ones that I'm doing for quarter 2. Fight the FOMO, watch the movie while you're super excited about it, and see where the chips fall. So I did watch 3 titles for this particular challenge, and for so far, this is my first set for quarter 2, and the first one is My Animal. This came out in 2023. It is a Canadian film. It was on my most anticipated films of the year for 2023, and I think all I knew about it because it was at Sundance last year, and I think all I knew about it was that it was a werewolf movie and Stephen McHattie is in it, and he is from Pontypool. If you haven't seen that, highly recommend. Such a good movie. So that's all I knew about it. And then as more information started to come out about it, it's actually a sapphic werewolf movie, and I watched it, when did I watch it? Was it last weekend or the weekend before? Fairly recently, and wow, I really enjoyed it. So this is from 2023. As I mentioned, it's Canadian, and it was directed by Jacqueline Castle, stars Bobby Salvor Menuez, I hope I'm saying that right, and Amanda Steinberg, who's at the back, and Amanda Steinberg, is from Rue from Hunger Games. And I gotta say, because this title is a bit steamy, I'm kind of glad that I didn't pick up on it that while I was watching. I know it's been a long amount of years since the Hunger Games came out, but wow, I didn't anticipate that. Also, as previously mentioned, Stephen McHattie's in it. So we follow a character who is played by Bobby Salvor Menuez. Again, I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. And her character is she plays hockey, she works at the local rink, she lives with her family. I had a bit of a hard time trying to figure out how old she was. I think older than high school, but maybe not that much. She had younger brothers who were high schoolers and on the hockey team, and there was a moment where they said, "You're not in high school," so that makes me think she was older. But and I will admit, as I get older, I find it harder to tell people's ages, especially in the sort of teens to 20s. It sort of blurs. So I never thought that would happen, but it has happened. Anyway, so we follow her character, and there are, you can see the moon, and I already said this is a sapphic werewolf movie, and it was so good. I almost don't want to say too much about it, because it just really was so good. And I would say one of the things that I really loved about it was the atmosphere, the intensity, the emotional intensity between the 2 characters is so present. It was great. I will say, if you're only looking for a werewolf movie, I feel like you might not enjoy it as much, because it is the relationship is a big part of it, and there is a lot of longing in this one, and there's a lot of tension, and it's really much more emotionally driven than sort of like horror movie driven. I think it's a great blend of the 2. For me, that's something I love. And technically, actually, if you have romance and horror, that's actually gothic. And I didn't think of that, but that actually probably would be the case, even though it's set in super gothic times of like 1980s Ontario, like Northern Ontario. I'm not sure exactly. It was filmed in Timmins. but I don't think they ever say where it is beyond. I think they say, I don't know if they even say Northern Ontario. It felt very clearly Ontario, and they didn't say the time period, but I mean, by what the TVs look like, the size of the cars, and the black and white female bodybuilder pictures from magazines. I mean, we're talking 80s. Like, it's 80s. And it is a werewolf movie, and I felt like it was so different in tone and in story than so many other werewolf movies, in my opinion, especially since I'm trying to recall a werewolf movie where there is a family that lives together that feels like a very she's got two younger brothers and her parents and her, like, and she's this sort of, I guess, late, like maybe 1921 kind of age. Like that's I mean, well, Ginger Snaps, I guess they were in high school in Ginger Snaps. Another great Canadian werewolf movie. But this one, I loved it. I loved it. I think it was the acting, the tension, the wanting to be sort of like part of something, like she wanted to be on the hockey team, but she was the only girl and they didn't want that. And there were so many there's so many barriers, unspoken barriers. I will say there was some stuff in this that was pretty challenging in terms of, there was some like unchallenged homophobia in this one. And there was definitely one scene that I was missing. I could feel I could tell that I was missing there was something that I was missing that I couldn't pick up on in terms of the tension and the moment of something. I didn't understand one moment of it. And I will say there is also some abuse in this one. So if those are challenges or things that you're not comfortable watching, I don't think it's on screen, but it is a theme in this. But this idea, like their relationship, and the longing and the tension and I thought how like they did some of the scenes was so fabulous. Like from an artistic perspective, it was so fabulous. So this like sort of like blurs into the realm of like art house, right? In terms of some of the things that they do and some of the effects that they do and some of the werewolf stuff and that kind of stuff. So for me, it was great, like atmospherically, tonally, artistically. The acting was great. I really enjoyed it. And it was really nice to see Stephen McHattie. I'm just such a huge fan. I think Pontypool was probably the first thing that I've seen him in, and he's just so great, and he plays her dad. And that was, and I loved the scenes between them. I felt like they were just really, like, there was, I don't know, there was some domestic tension with some things, but there was just something nice, and it was unusual again to this werewolf movie that it's like a family, but there was a lot of unspoken things going on, and for me, I don't always pick up on that. I'm sure other people watch it and be like, that's what's going on here, and I'd be like, that's what's going on there. I don't always pick up on stuff. Usually it comes to me later, but I really enjoyed it. And also it was just like some things, it was just so awesome to see like the sheer size of the snowbanks like in the winter. I'm like, you don't always see that, like just so much snow, and and like zambonis, and just but then also this wonderful, like, challenging, I will say, the sapphic stuff that also had some challenges too, so it wasn't all like sunshine and roses, but there was so much there was so much chemistry, there was a lot going on, and I really enjoyed it. It was a huge win. I loved the acting was great. The lead is amazing. It was a much more of a slow burn, atmosphere driven, haunting, kind of longing kind of vibe to it, that is that I really enjoyed. For some people, that will read as too slow or too like artsy. For me, I thought it was formidable. Like this exceeded my expectations, and I already had pretty high expectations, so I was thrilled to watch that. So that was one of my Fight the FOMO films. I'm so glad that I watched it, that I didn't wait, that I dove right in. I think it took me the second week till I watched it, but still, it was on my list from like my first quarter, but it didn't fit into my categories of, well, it could have fit for monster movies, I guess, with werewolves. I did have a werewolf movie with a Viking wolf last quarter, but I don't know how I feel about monsters when as like werewolves and vampires and stuff like that, because they are human. So that needs, I don't know if I feel like that is a monster movie. So I don't know. I didn't feel like that in this one. Like you could easily say that, but for me it was saying something else, and I really liked it. So, and then one of the other movies that I watched, and this one I genuinely watched, it just became available that weekend, and I couldn't think of anything else to watch, and I just didn't want to make any decisions. Like, decision fatigue is real, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna watch this. It's available. I had watched the trailer, and I thought the trailer showed you everything, but there actually was a little more to it. And anyway, so the movie is The Beekeeper with Jason Statham. This is actually a 2024 release, and it was out in the theaters, I think, in January. It says January 12th here. And so we have Jason Statham as a retired professional of some kind, who's now a beekeeper. He literally keeps bees, and but he was some kind of professional, I don't know, like it's like, you know, he's very skilled in physical combat, we'll put it that way, and then there something happens, you know, that sort of brings him out of not necessarily retirement, but gives him a reason to use his skills, which he had put aside for tending bees. So this one, actually, as I started like taking some notes on it and writing some stuff about it, and I actually realized that it's a little, and I don't always like to do comparison games to movies, because I feel sometimes then people, that's all they think about, and then you don't think of the work as an individual work. But I do feel like there are some commonalities to John Wick. But on the other hand, how, like, we have The Professional, not La Femme Nikita, that one was about learning to be a professional, The Man from Nowhere, John Wick, like there's so many films, or the one with Liam Neeson from, gosh, it's got to be 2010, that was not Unknown, actually Unknown probably was that as well, but it was, that one really sort of started the current trend. What was that one with Liam Neeson? Anyway, seeing someone come out of retirement and they're a very skilled combat person, and now they're going to do one more gig or one more thing, or something has set the stage where they're not going to let it stand. They're going to engage even though they had put the life aside. We see this a lot. So, but I will say that for me, the story did have more than I thought the trailer let on. And I did only watch the first little bit of the trailer, which really sort of sets up the first, like it sets up the movie, like you have the whole sort of first 15 minutes of the movie in the trailer. So, I generally try not to watch trailers anyway. And so this one, we have Jason Statham. We also have Emmy Raver Lampman, who is from Umbrella Academy. Josh Hutcherson, who is from Hunger Games, of course. Jeremy Irons, Gemma Redgrave, and Radgrave. Is it Radgrave or Redgrave? And Minnie Driver. And there's more. Like the cast was actually quite, every time, like every once in a while someone came on the screen, I was like, whoa! Like I was like, that's Minnie Driver. Like that's wild. Anyway, so Jason Statham, something happens to pull him out of this semi-retirement, and then lots of action, lots of taking on a big, in this case, corporation, taking them to task for what they've done, and it's not a good thing, and so that he's going to make things right. And he's highly skilled and very cold, and is not afraid of he usually gives people a chance to either get away or get things right, and then if not, you're going to be toast. This one, I will say that it was more engaging than I thought. It had more than the trailer let on. I thought the story was pretty interesting. I thought the bee analogy was overused like a little bit. It makes sense, but like sometimes it's like there's just that sentence, I think someone would react to that sentence with bee analogies. Like there's a lot of bee analogies. And there's some situations where I feel like someone would respond with like, what are you talking about? Like, who cares about bees? Or something like that. So I felt like sometimes it was a little hard or a little heavy-handed, but it also made sense that they did that as the film went on. But it was, sometimes that stuff was in a bit of an odd space because it wasn't like melodramatic or overly dramatic and neither comedic. So I just kind of wasn't sure if it could land as more neutral, and that was a bit strange. The action was definitely good. That's really, honestly going to be the draw, at least for me, to this film. I've been watching Jason Statham films for probably 20 years, probably over 20 years. I think The Transporter was 2002, so 22 years. So, and I often will watch Jason Statham films. I think one of my favorite roles he was in, though, was actually Spy. I didn't know he could do comedy. Oh my god, it was so good. But I tend to like that kind of dry character. Oh my god, so good. But the action is good, without question. You believe him, you feel it. But I feel like one of the challenges is like you don't actually, like for me, I didn't actually feel like anyone could compete. So that kind of creates less tension because he seems so skilled. But I think it's also maybe what we want as moviegoers. We want him to succeed. We want the lead to be able to come back from retirement for one more job and get that job done or whatever. I'm not sure. Anyway, so, and I think that, but I do feel like sometimes like that I like seeing the skill involved required to do the thing, but I do feel like sometimes you gotta have some sense that someone can take him on, or maybe not. I don't know. Do you feel that way with action movies? I feel like usually they have like some, like whatever, like they bring out the big guns, and they did do that with this one, but I never quite believed that someone could outdo him. And so, I don't know. But does that matter? I don't know. I will say that, even though I really did like the action, I would say the violence level of this one is pretty high, but like sort of creatively high. It had a 16 plus rating, which I don't even know what that really means. But it wasn't super bloody, but there were a lot of things that were pretty disturbing. And there were a couple of things that I thought were done for shock value, like so that you have a reaction, like, and like, I think I'm just not into that. Anymore. So for me, those moments were like uncomfortable, and it's like I don't want to think about that happening to a person, or if that physically could happen to a person. It doesn't add to it for me. I want to see the hand-to-hand combat kind of stuff go down. That's what I'm there for, and there was a fair amount of it in this one. So overall, I did enjoy it more than expected. My expectations were pretty low, but I feel like you're gonna get some good action with the Jason Statham film, and you did. And I thought the story was better than expected. I did like the supporting cast a fair amount. I actually really liked the woman who played the FBI agent, and there was some interesting questions there that they did bring up in terms of like, is what he's doing, even like, because he's sort of technically a vigilante kind of, but it's also like, but is he doing something that other people are not capable of doing? Like, is it outside the law but morally correct? Very mild, putting that question out there in the film, but it had, in that sense, it had some depth to it, and I thought that was good. So yeah, so The Beekeeper, have you seen it? It was cool to get an in-year release in. I think that's always going to be something that can fit the Fight the FOMO challenge, and it was fun to watch something on the first as it first became available. And one of the reasons why I do like to do that is I do feel like I can get influenced by if people say that they didn't like it, or I don't hear anything at all, and that makes me feel like it's not good because nobody's saying anything or nobody's watching it, and then it just sort of can linger too long, and then you just feel like, I should have watched that already, and now there's something else new to watch. So, but I do feel, and I am surprised that I can often be influenced by other people's opinions and reaction. And it's like, I've been watching movies a long time now. Like, there are some people that I just will watch what they're in, you know what I mean? Or there's some genres that I almost always want to watch anything. Like, I'll watch almost, like, generally, if it's science fiction, fantasy, or urban fantasy, vampires or werewolves or some kind of supernatural paranormal element, I will watch it. I don't, that's enough for me. And there's a huge list of actors and directors that I'll watch, and I love watching Canadian films. So I'm like, I shouldn't get influenced. So, but you know, I think it's hard to combat sometimes. All right, on to the next movie. This is also a 2023 release, and I watched This Is Me Now, a love story, and this is with Jennifer Lopez. It sounds like this was an accompaniment or based on or done in tandem with her studio album, This Is Me Now. And I don't know exactly, I haven't listened to that, other than, of course, I imagine there's a lot of songs in here that are from that. So I don't know if, like, the album has, like, a narrative, like, that goes with it, or if there's just thematic links. I'm not quite sure. So this one, it stars Jennifer Lopez. It also stars, we have Jane Fonda, Trevor Noah, Neil deGrasse Tyson. We're all in it in very supplementary roles, but a really interesting, unique, say, constellation of characters. And also, I did not recognize Ben Affleck. He's got makeup on, but he felt like someone from the son of the big antagonist from Lethal Weapon, the actor's son. That's who I thought it was. I can't remember what I've seen that person in, but that's who I could hear, because there's so much makeup and I couldn't place him. But anyway, it's Ben Affleck in this. So this was really interesting. This is very much more of an art house type of film. It has, like, different threads in it that sort of there's one through line narrative about a character and her friends, a character who's always sort of searching for or wanting love, and to be in a relationship, and continually being in different relationships, and her friends are, you know, kind of worried about her because she's just so focused on this all of the time, and often it doesn't work out, and so they're like, can you try something else, or maybe this feeling soon, kind of stuff. So that's the sort of plot through line, is a character where that's going on. But then we also have interspersed all of these different elements. Sometimes there's one that feels very speculative fiction. There's another one that you could also argue is speculative fiction, and that are more like really intricate, dance numbers with amazing styling, but they're not quite like music videos. They feel like more like elevated than that, and they do feed into the story thematically, but they're sort of outside of it as well. And I thought, stylistically, I thought this was absolutely amazing. I loved the costumes, the production design, the art design, the ideas of the different, like, sort of music video type sections, like how they had sort of like their own arc. And sometimes it was pretty out there. Like, one of them really did feel like this speculative fiction thing about like flowers and a heart, and I did not pick up on all of it. I did not understand all of it, but it was so interesting and engaging. And then there was this other amazing sort of dance number thing that was like within this glass house that I was just like, it was spectacularly gorgeous, like absolutely gorgeous. But also emotionally, like, really tough. Like the story it was telling emotionally was so tough. And then the through line story was really interesting as well. And it was also pretty tough. Like, I would say, the emotional ride of the character is very present, and I thought it was, but I also felt like it was quite meaningful, and like actually, you know, really meaningful, as the film went on, and I really enjoyed it. Like it is definitely a journey of self-discovery. It is definitely art house arty, and that's not going to be for everyone, but I thought that it was an amazing vision brought to life. Like, this is not like every other movie. You know what I mean? Like, this really is, I felt, very unique, and it felt in integrity with itself in terms of like how things melded together, and how some things were a little bit out there, and how a lot of things were really emotional, but it really felt in integrity with itself. And I thought that was amazing. And I thought the like, again, stylistically, gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Like, there's a sunset near the beginning, like with a motorcycle ride, that I was just like, oh my gosh, it's just so beautiful. Like, it's just so beautiful. So yeah, and I meant to look into a little bit more in terms of like, I think some people feel this is pretty like self-involved, I think, as a project, but I mean, if you have a vision like that you want to bring to life and you can do it, I don't understand why it should be faced with frustration, or like why there is energy around like people unhappy with someone bringing their vision to life. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't really understand that. But I mean, a lot of people do that, like with the guise of fiction, but you know, and I don't know how much of this is based on like personal experience versus not. But I don't know. I don't have a problem with it. I can see it as its own work, and I just don't, I find it's a bit strange. I meant to look into it, but I also kind of didn't want to look into it, that there was sort of pushback on it, because I really enjoyed it, and I didn't really want to tarnish that. I didn't, because I enjoyed it and I thought it was great. I loved like the costume, the set, the lighting, the color, the atmosphere. And I felt like the emotional journey was really raw. And I thought that that's something that we don't always see. But it also wasn't like, I don't know. For me, it just really worked. It just really worked. And I think and it's funny because one of the reasons why I watched it was simply because it was pretty short, and I just needed a shorter movie, because some of the other movies I've been watching recently have been longer, and it's just, I think it's like an hour and 6 minutes. And I had started it previously with my sisters, but for a technical reason, we couldn't watch it. And so I came back to it, and I just thought it was great. Like, I just really thought it was very inventive and artistic, and fascinating and beautiful. I thought it was a great vision brought to life, and I do want to watch. There is also a documentary that's sort of based on the making of, and it's sort of a behind the scenes, and I'm really curious about that as well. So I really enjoyed This Is Me Now, a love story, and that was 2024 release as well. So I actually I would say these ended up being a very strange combination. You know, we have a sapphic Canadian werewolf story, we have an action film with Jason Statham, and a really art house type like accompaniment to an album by Jennifer Lopez, and I thought she was great in it as well. But I actually ended up enjoying all of them. So yeah, so I think Fight the FOMO is kind of working. I don't know. Hopefully the next three I will enjoy just as much, but these three were all winners in my book. The Beekeeper is like it was enjoyable, but the other two films were just, you know, exceeded expectations and really, really beautiful. And that's important to me. And I realized I thought of making an art house like category for film, but I think you don't know something's art house like until after you watch it. And I feel like both of those had some art house elements to them. Great atmosphere, just beautiful design, and really worked. So yeah, so those were the last three Fight the FOMO films that I saw. Let me know if you have seen anything recently, if you embrace watching something that just recently became available. I feel like it's going well so far. So there you have it. I will be back with another video soon. Thanks so much for watching.